The most expensive mistake you can make in real estate isn't choosing the wrong house. It's signing documents you don't understand because you are afraid to look uninformed. Today, I'm going to show you how to know enough to protect yourself without becoming a real estate agent yourself. Hi, I'm Shakima. I'm a licensed realtor and wealth alignment strategist. I help buyers understand what's actually happening in the home buying process so they don't outsource their power to professionals that don't fully understand. Because the goal is not control, the goal is clarity. So when people hear know more than your agent, they assume it means memorizing contracts or arguing details. That's not what this means. Knowing more means understanding the process, understanding your options, and understanding the impact of decisions. It means that you are participating, not just complying. So think of it this way. You don't need to be a mechanic to know that your car needs an oil change. You don't need to be a doctor to know when your symptoms need attention. And you don't need to be a realtor to know when something in your transaction needs explanation. So the first point I want to bring out is that you need to know the process, not the paperwork. You don't need to memorize contracts, but you should understand the sequence of events. You should know what happens before you make an offer, what happens after an offer is accepted, where inspections, appraisal, and financing fits, and what decisions become binding. And here's why this matters. If you don't understand when you can still walk away versus when you're committed, you're vulnerable to pressure. I've seen buyers think that they were just looking at a property only to find out that they were in a binding contract after their agent said, "Let's write an offer. You can always back out." Technically, true, but the contingency period matters. Knowing the timeline means knowing when your power to walk away expires. You don't need to memorize this. You just need to ask, walk me through what happens next and when I can change my mind. The second point is you need to understand what is negotiable. Many buyers assume price is the only thing they can change. That's not true. Knowing more means understanding that your terms matter, timing matters, contingencies matter, credit and concessions matter. And here's what this looks like. Your agent says the seller won't budge on the price. You could ask, what about closing cost credits, repair allowances, extended closing dates, or the inclusion of certain appliances? Another example is when your agent says you need to waive inspections to compete. You could ask, what about pre-inspection, or keeping the inspection but shortening the resolution period, or asking for credits instead of repairs? Every no has alternatives. Knowing more means knowing what else to ask for. Point number 3, know the questions that change the conversation. Powerful buyers don't argue. They ask better questions. So here are some examples of questions that shift dynamics. What are the risks of this option? What happens if it doesn't go as planned? What alternatives do we have? What would you advise if this were your money? And can you explain why this is the recommendation? Or think about, what am I giving up by choosing this option? If I were your sister or brother, what would you tell them to watch out for? You notice the pattern here? These questions don't challenge your agent's expertise. They invite explanation. A good agent welcomes these questions. A defensive one resents them. Either way, you learn something valuable. The fourth point I want to bring out is understand your incentives. This part makes people uncomfortable, but it's important. Agents are paid when deals close. That doesn't make them untrustworthy. It does mean incentives exist. Knowing more means recognizing when advice may be influenced by speed, ease, or deal momentum. Here's what this might look like. Your agent might genuinely be trying to help when they say, let's get this deal done before the rates change. They might also be thinking, I need this to close this month. Both can be true at the same time. But knowing more doesn't mean assuming bad intent. It means staying aware that urgency can serve multiple purposes. So when you hear we need to move fast, you can ask, fast for what reason? What happens if we wait one more week? Awareness keeps you grounded. So point number 5, know the difference between advice and opinion. Advice is based on data, experience, and explanation. Opinions sound like that's just how it's done, trust me, or everyone does this. If advice isn't explained, it's not advice yet. So when you hear things like that's just how it's done, you should ask, can you explain why? When you hear trust me, ask, help me understand so I can trust the decision, not just you. And then finally, everybody does this. So you ask, what happens to people who don't? You're not being difficult. You're converting opinion into explanation. So point number 6, trust your confusion as a signal. Confusion is not ignorance, it's feedback. So if you constantly feel unclear or rushed or hesitant, something needs to slow down. Knowing more means honoring that signal instead of overriding it. So here's my simple rule. If you can't explain the decision to someone you trust in plain language, you don't understand it yet. And if you don't understand it, then you should not sign it. Confusion is not a character flaw, it's a boundary. So when you say, I need to understand this better before moving forward, you are not slowing things down. You are literally protecting yourself. So here's a quick test. A red flag response from your agent will be something like, you don't need to worry about that. Just trust the process. That's too complicated to explain. A green flag would look something like, great question. Here's what that means. Or let me draw this out for you. Or I want to make sure you understand before we move forward. The agent who wants you to know more will help you get there. You'll know you have enough knowledge when you can explain what's happening in your own words. You understand why timing matters, not just that it does. You can articulate the risk alongside the benefits. You feel equipped to say yes or no, and you ask questions from curiosity, not fear. That's the goal, not expertise, confidence. You are not being difficult by wanting to understand. You're being responsible. The buyers who struggle the most are the ones who stay silent out of fear of looking uninformed. The agents who get frustrated by questions, those are agents you don't want. The agents who light up when you ask, those are your people. So if you want to start knowing more today, first, ask your agent for a timeline of the entire process from offer to close. And if they can't provide one, that's a red flag. 2, write down every term you hear that you don't fully understand. Then ask for definitions and keep a running list. And finally, before every decision point, ask yourself, can I explain this choice to someone I trust? If not, slow down. If you want a simple reference that walks you through the home buying timeline, lists the questions you should feel comfortable asking at every stage, and helps you recognize what healthy agent support actually looks like, I created a free guide for exactly that. The link is in the description. Download it, print it, keep it with you. Use it as your confidence tool, not a confrontational script. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know enough to stay present, informed, and empowered throughout the process. And that's completely within your reach.